So in this video, we're going to take a look at some angles and we're going to think about how we can classify angles into certain categories. So first of all, we really must have a good understanding of what an angle is. And an angle is a measure of turn. So if we imagine a door being fully closed and we don't have any angle at all, so we have 0 degrees. But as we open that door a little bit further and further and further, the amount we open it, okay, is measured by an angle. And this angle changes and gets larger and larger and larger. So when we get to a right angle, right, okay, which is like a quarter turn, this is 90 degrees exactly. And we think of it then, well, a full half turn, so doubling that, will of course be 180. So that's why we get this 180 at a half turn. It's double that 90. So a full turn will be double that 180 again. So a full turn right the way round is going to be 360. So before we go any further with this, let's start thinking about some angles. And I would like everybody to think, well, can we estimate and get a feeling for what certain angles could be? So think about these 3 that you can see on your screen as a starting point. Well, if that's the case, what would an angle like this be? Well, clearly, it's definitely going to be smaller than 90 degrees because it's not a quarter turn like 90 degrees. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. So maybe we can estimate this to be perhaps 45 degrees, perhaps 50 degrees. Somewhere around that mark is going to be this angle here. But if we consider something far bigger, so imagine we've got an angle open like this, well, we're going to be getting closer to that 180 mark. A full turn, a flat angle is 180. This isn't quite that amount, so it's going to be a little smaller than that. But it certainly is going to be bigger than 90 because it's far bigger than a quarter turn. So I would suggest this angle is going to be around about 160 degrees, maybe 150, something like that. We have to get a feel for what these angles are if we're going to be able to categorize them. So now we're going to think about how we can categorize them. And there are particular words that we need to understand. So angles that are less than 90 degrees, so something that looks like that, is an acute angle. And in fact, anything up to 90 degrees is that acute angle. A 90 degree angle itself is a right angle. But once we get, so these are acute angles, but once we get past 90 degrees, so anything like this, these are known as obtuse angles. But we can go even further than that. We can actually go past that 180 degrees and look at like an outside angle. Well, these angles are reflex angles. And they are designated there in green. They're past that half turn of 180 degrees. So with that in mind, let's just have a quick think, right, about how we can categorize and see if you can follow these examples. So take a look at these on your screen right now. Can you stop and think which ones are acute, which ones are obtuse, and which ones are reflex? So let's deal with A first. Well, A is this clear angle here. It is well past a half turn, so this is a reflex angle. B is certainly smaller than a quarter turn, so this means it's between 0 and 90, so this is an acute angle. C, well, it's going to be bigger than a quarter turn, but it's not quite as big as a half turn. So this falls somewhere between 90 and 180. So this angle is obtuse. In part D, we have an angle which is past that half turn. It's bigger than that. So it's bigger than 180 degrees, which means that it is a reflex angle. If we take a look at E, E is nowhere near a full quarter turn. It must be somewhere between 0 and 90. So E is an acute angle. Finally, F is getting close to a half turn, but it isn't quite there yet, which means it's less than 180, but bigger than 90 degrees. This is an obtuse angle. So I hope this video gave you some understanding as to what angles are, getting a feel for how these measurements work and how you can categorize an angle to be acute, obtuse, or reflex.